देवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते ताप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिभृंग गोविंद स्वामिनिति नामिने नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वर. Okay, back to this chapter. Anyone remembers? Anu, your screen is flashing so much. Is it okay?
Yeah, there's something wrong with the camera.
Yeah, it's just going flickering. Maybe
yeah, I will switch off. Yeah, I'll
switch it off.
Yeah.
All right. So welcome back to the third chapter. We'll try to finish it. And next week we can start with the fourth chapter. Yeah. Okay. Right. Anyone remembers what was this chapter all about till now?
It is about incarnations.
Yes, that's right. Oh, I can see Vaishali's little doggy also. Okay. Attending Bhagavatam. Nice. Okay, yes. So it was all about the Lord's incarnations, avatars. But what was the main verse? What is the Paribhasha Sutra for our Gaudiya Vaishnavas? Who can remember the verse? You all memorized it, didn't you?
Ete chamshakalapusa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge.
Yes. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Most important verse. Right? Then we came down to all the kalas, the expansions, the plenary expansions, the expansions of the expansions. And then we talked about how Vishwa or the Virat Roop is just the material form. And then how the Mayavadis think that everything comes from the Lord has a material form and the material world is only which is existent, which is not true. Now we come to verse number 37. So someone repeat after me. Na chasya kaschin nipune na dhatur
न चास्य कश्चिन् निपुणेन धातुर्
avaiti jantu kumanisha utihi
अवेति जन्तुः कुमुन्नैश्रुतिः
namani rupani manovachobhihi
नामानि रूपाणि मनोवचोभिः
santanvato natacharyam ivanyah
संतो please repeat this, Supriya Mataji.
santanvato
संतन्वतो
natacharyam
नतचर्याम्
ivanyah.
इवान्यः.
Please read the translation.
The foolish, with a poor fund of knowledge, cannot know the transcendental nature of the forms, names, and activities of the Lord, who is playing like an actor in a drama. Nor can they express such things, neither in their speculations nor in their words.
One second. Suddenly became cloudy, so the whole thing became dark. Okay. So no one can properly know, we'll read the purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. No one can properly describe the transcendental nature of the absolute truth. He is achintya. He is not so easily understandable by us. Muyate sa surya. Yeah, even all the suras, they get bewildered. So therefore it is said that he is beyond the expression of mind and speech. And yet there are some men with a poor fund of knowledge who desire to understand the absolute truth by imperfect mental speculation and faulty description of his activities. So Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that you can only know me by bhakti. You cannot know Krishna by karma and jnana. You can only know him by bhakti. So when you have when you desire to understand by imperfect mental speculation and faulty descriptions, then that is poor fund of knowledge. It is your own speculation, right? To the layman, his activities, appearance and disappearance, his names, his forms, his paraphernalia, his personalities and all things in relation with him are mysterious. Why is it easy for us to understand? Because the basis of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, which explains how the Lord, his names, his forms, anything related to the Lord is the Lord himself. Right? So there are two classes of materialists, namely the fruitive workers, karmis, and the empiric philosophers, jnanis. So the fruitive workers are they have practically no information of the absolute truth. And the mental speculators, after being frustrated in fruitive activities, turn their faces toward the absolute truth and try to know him by mental speculation. And for all these men, the absolute truth is a mystery, as the jugglery of the magician is a mystery to children. Being deceived by the jugglery of the Supreme Being, the non-devotees, who may be very dexterous in fruitive work and mental speculation, are always in ignorance. So the crux of this point here is that if you are not in bhakti, you are in ignorance, because you will not know the Lord fully. Yeah. With such limited knowledge, they are unable to penetrate into the mysterious region of transcendence. So they commit the offense of thinking that the Lord, when he takes an avatar and comes to the material world, also takes a material form. The Lord is transcendental to the three modes. He can never be anything material. He is completely transcendental. The mental speculators are a little more progressive than the gross materialists or the fruitive workers, but because they are also within the grip of illusion, they take it for granted that anything which has form, a name, activities, is but a product of material energy. Even though jnanis are a little better than karmis, but still they are under illusion. For them, the Supreme Spirit is formless, nameless, and inactive. So this is what Mayavadis think, that the Lord has no form, and that is the biggest offense. Yeah, because if the Lord has no form, then how is he talking? How is he listening? How do we have a form? And he has made us on him, right? Based on him. So we are reflections. So then how does he enjoy? So this is completely baseless. And because such mental speculators equalize the transcendental name and form of the Lord with mundane names and form, they are in fact in ignorance. With such a poor fund of knowledge, there is no access to the real nature of the Supreme Being. You cannot access Krishna without bhakti. You can read a number of books and mentally speculate this, that, and everything. But if you want to access Krishna, it has to be through a devotee. And that's why our acharyas, all these Srila Prabhupada's purports, all the acharyas' purports are very important. So that we don't use our own knowledge and speculate. With such a poor fund of knowledge, there is no access to the real nature of the Supreme Being. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is always in a transcendental position, even when he is within the material world. But ignorant men can consider the Lord one of the great personalities of the world, and thus they are misled by the illusory energy. Example of this is Duryodhana, right? He thought Krishna was just another personality. He never accepted him as the supreme personality of Godhead. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken that, that courage or maybe that impudence to take Krishna as a prisoner. When Krishna came as a messenger of the Pandavas and said that give them just five villages. What did Duryodhana do? He said, if there's no Krishna, there's no strength for Arjun, so let's take him prisoner. Ignorant men only consider the Lord as a great personality, someone very great who can do supernatural things in this world, just like maybe some other great men. But they never accept him because they are misled by Maya. They're covered by the illusory potency. So if you want to access Krishna, it has to be through bhakti. You cannot do it through karma and jnana. Yeah, you cannot read all the scriptures as a jnani. The only way to access Krishna is through bhakti, and that is what even Sri Vyasadeva is telling us. Dharma projata kaitavo nirmat saranam satam. What was the thing? I mean, you will be reading now in the next chapter. 4th chapter is about Vyasadeva, how he came about writing Srimad Bhagavatam. Because he wrote everything else, he still had some lamentation in him. He was not happy. And therefore Narad Muni came and said, you have not glorified the Lord enough. So that's why this is happening. And then he composed the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you have the time and the energy and the wisdom to read all the scriptures, you can go through the Vedas and the Puranas and the Upanishads, you still will not be satisfied. You will not. But just reading Bhagavatam will give you bhakti. And bhakti, everything else is a cheating religion. Yeah? Kaitava religion. Why? Because it gives you dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. It talks of the 4 purusharthas, but it doesn't give you Krishna. Only Bhagavatam. So that's why all our acharyas in our sampradaya say, focus on just 3 books, Srila Prabhupada says. What are the 3 books?
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
How many of you are doing Bhagavad Gita? All of you.
Yes.
How many of you are doing a Bhagavatam? All of you.
Yes.
How many are doing Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Not yet.
Not yet. But you should try. You should try and listen to something or read on your own. You don't have to wait to finish Bhagavatam, because how much time do we have? Isn't it? So, is it enough? Absolutely, it is enough. Everything is packed in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. You do not need any other scriptures, because they will not give you bhakti. Yeah. Okay. So access. So what is the crux of this verse? You can access Krishna only through bhakti. You cannot do it through karma and jnana. Okay. Someone repeat after me. Saveda dhatu padavim parasya
Saved dhatu padvi parasya
durantya viryasya rathangapane
Duranta viryasya rathani pande
yo mayaya santataya nuvrittaya
Yo mayaya santataya numritya
bhajeta tatpada sarojagandham
Bhajeta tatpad saroj gandham
bhajeta, one who does bhakti, bhajan. Bhajan is service. Tatpada, to his feet, the fragrance of his lotus feet. Tatpada, saroja gandham. Only those who render unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who carries the wheel of the chariot in his hand, who can know the creator of the universe in his full glory, power, and transcendence. Such a beautiful verse. Yeah? Ratha Angapane, the Lord Krishna who bears his hand, the wheel of the chariot. Amayaya, without reservation. Santataya, without any gap. Yeah? Ahaituki apratihata, without any gap. Yeah? Wow. Only the pure devotees can know the transcendental name, form, and activities of Lord Krishna due to their being completely freed from the reactions of fruitive work and mental speculation. Please remember that the moment you start chanting offenselessly, the moment you pick up your beads and you chant offenselessly, your past, your present, and your future karmas are all destroyed. Even future. So only then, when you are freed from this reaction of fruitive work, which is karma and jnana, then you start knowing the name, form, and activities. The Lord starts revealing himself. So therefore, only pure devotees. So we have to seek such pure devotees who can give us. So we are very lucky. We have Srila Prabhupada, we have our full Guru Parampara, and we have so many Swamis, Sannyasis who are pure devotees in our movement. Yeah. The pure devotees have nothing to derive as personal profit from their unalloyed service to the Lord. They render incessant service to the Lord spontaneously without any reservation. Everyone within the creation of the Lord is rendering service to the Lord directly or indirectly. No one is an exception to this law of the Lord. Those who are rendering service indirectly, being forced by the illusory agent of the Lord, are rendering service unto him unfavorably. But those who are rendering service unto him directly, under the direction of his beloved agent, are rendering service unto him favorably. Yeah? Such favorable servitors are devotees of the Lord, and by the grace of the Lord, they can enter into the mysterious region of transcendence by the mercy of the Lord. So to enter this mysterious region of transcendence, which is the spiritual world, why is it mysterious? Because people, you cannot understand it so easily. What do you have to do? You have to render service to his favorable servitors. Favorable servitors who are the devotees of the Lord. When you render service to the devotees, then you will get the mercy of the Lord. Right? But the mental speculators remain in darkness all the time. Why? Because they rely on their own speculation. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself guides the pure devotees toward the path of realization due to their constant engagement in the loving service of the Lord in spontaneous affection. So the Lord always guides you. What you need is the desire. If you desire, I want to know this thing, this aspect, he will reveal it to you through a devotee, or through a class, or through one of the purports, something like that. He will guide you depending on your desire. So it's very important to have spiritual desires and always think of yourself as the servant of the Lord, and therefore servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. And one day you will become that, because that desire will be fulfilled. If you think you can access Krishna directly, it's not possible. You have to go through a devotee. So it's even in the spiritual world, you cannot access the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar, directly. It has to be through his sakhis, through his sakhas, through the manjaris, and so many below them. So make a habit now itself. Start favorably serving his devotees, and then you will get entrance to the mysterious region of transcendence. That is the secret of, okay, let me read this again. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord himself guides the pure devotees toward the path of realization due to their constant engagement in the loving service of the Lord in spontaneous affection. That is the secret of entering into the kingdom of God. Fruitive activities and speculations are no qualifications for entering. Yeah. So there is no point in doing karma kanda activities and jnana kanda activities, because what is going to happen? Even though you just have jnana, you're not going to get entry into the spiritual world. What is the destination of jnanis? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagwan. What is the destination of jnanis?
Brahmajyoti.
Brahmajyoti. So therefore they're called Brahmanandis. They are happy in the Brahman. So they get, of course there is Anand in Brahman, but it's not that supreme Anand where there is a reciprocation of rasa. There is no rasa in Brahman. They're called Brahmanandis. Yeah. So this Brahman aspect is what they attain. Yeah. Himagini, you want to say something? You unmuted.
Yeah, I want to answer the question which
She answered.
yeah.
Yeah. So what is the qualification for entering the spiritual world?
Serve the devotees of the Lord and always have spiritual desires.
Yes.
Which only get fulfilled.
Bhakti is very, very important. Bhakti is the topmost. Remember that. So whatever the acharyas are telling you to do, just do it. Have only spiritual desires. Don't hanker for material desires. It will come. Just like summer comes after winter and winter comes after summer, automatically happiness will come after distress, and distress will come after happiness. So what is needed for you in the material world will come automatically. You don't have to hanker for it. You don't have to keep thinking. When you go for work, when your husband goes to work, does he have this that, will I get my salary at the end of the month? No, he knows it will come automatically because it's the contract he's made with his company. that at the end of the month he will get this much salary. So the same way there is a contract with Paramatma also. This is what you will get according to your previous karma. So whatever you do, how much of a stress you take, how much ever you think, how much ever you hanker, you're not going to get even a paisa more than what you deserve. So why worry about that? But when you do bhakti, you get 10 times more than what you deserve, because Krishna is so munificent. More than him, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. More than that, Nityananda Prabhu. More than that, Srimati Radhika. So we don't have to worry. We have a lot of people on our side. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Which one is this? 39. Someone repeat after me. Atheha dhanya bhagavanta ittham
अथेह धन्या भगवन्त इत्थम्
yad vasudeva khila lokanathe
यद्वासुदेव खिललोकनाथे
kurvanti sarvatmakam atmabhavam
कुर्वन्ति सर्वात्मकमात्मभावम्
na yatra bhuya parivartayugraha.
न यर्त भूय परिवर्त उग्रः.
Okay, translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Where did it go? Only by making such inquiries in this world can one be successful and perfectly cognizant. For such inquiries invoke transcendental ecstatic love unto the personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of all the universes, and guarantees 100% immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death. 100% immunity. Pfizer said it will give us 90%. It didn't give us that. No guarantee for any vaccine for COVID. Yeah, but here Krishna gives you 100% immunity. 100%, 100%. Wow. And that too with what? From the dreadful repetition of birth and death. Let's read the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The inquiries of the sages headed by Shaunaka are herewith praised by Suta Goswami on the merit of their transcendental nature. Inquiries are always glorious when it is of spiritual nature. Or as already concluded, only the devotees of the Lord can know him to a considerable extent, and no one else can know him at all. So the devotees are perfectly cognizant of all spiritual knowledge. The personality of Godhead is the last word in the absolute truth. Impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma Super Soul are included in the knowledge of the personality of Godhead. So one who knows the personality of Godhead can automatically know all about him, his multipotencies and his expansions. So the devotees are congratulated as being all successful. A 100% devotee of the Lord is immune to the dreadful material miseries of repeated birth and death. If you know, so what is that verse? Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha.
त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म
नेति
नैति
मामेति
मामेति
सोऽर्जुन.
That is what is given here. So this is Bhagavad Gita. If you understand about my appearance and my activities, janma, karma, which are divyam, then what happens? Then there is no coming back. There is no repeated birth and death. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. There is no punarjanma for your deha. Naiti mameti sojana. No, there is no punarjanma. There is no repeated birth and death. So what is that? 100% immunity from birth and death. So if you understand the janma and the activities, the appearance and the activities, so Paramatma is also included in it, because Paramatma is who? Which Vishnu? Which Vishnu is Paramatma?
Kshirodakshaya Vishnu.
Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. And Brahman is his effulgence. So if you know the Lord, you know about these two aspects also of Brahman and Paramatma. You don't have to know them separately. So that's what the Lord is saying here. It's Bhagavad Gita over here. So Shaunaka Rishi is therefore, Shaunaka Rishi is being praised by Sutta Goswami that your questions are glorious because they are of the transcendental nature. Idam Bhagavatam Nama.
Idam Bhagavatam Nama
Puranam Brahma Sammitam
Puranam Brahma Samhitam
Uttama Shloka Charitam
Uttam Shloka Charitam
Chakara Bhagavan Rishihi
Chakara Bhagavan Rishi
Nishreyasaya Lokasya
Nishreyasa Lokasya
Dhanyam Swastyayanam Mahat.
Dhanyam Swastyanam Ayanam Mahata.
Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. One sec. The incarnation of God. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people, and it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. One thing to understand over here, the Srimad Bhagavatam does not change with time. It is the literary incarnation of Sri Krishna, and it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, who is also an incarnation of the Lord. So therefore, people sometimes say, but ये सब पुरानी बातें हो गई हैं, अभी आजकल के जमाने में चेंज करना चाहिए ना. Krishna should, come on, Krishna should not be so outdated. Foolish. That is a foolish way of understanding things. Bhagavatam cannot change for you. Krishna's instructions are always ever fresh like him, ever youthful, ever fresh, never ages. It is meant for the ultimate good of people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. It has no flaw. It is the Amala Purana. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says it is the Amala Purana. It is all perfect. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared that Srimad Bhagavatam is spotless, Amala, spotless sound representation of all Vedic and history, Vedic knowledge and history. There are selected histories of great devotees who are in direct contact with the personality of Godhead. For what reason these selected histories of great devotees? So that we can learn from them. Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Lord Sri Krishna and is therefore non-different from him. Srimad Bhagavatam should be worshipped as respectfully as we worship the Lord. Thereby, we can derive the ultimate blessings of the Lord through its careful and patient study. As God is all light, all bliss, and all perfection, Satchid Anand, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. We can have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman, Sri Krishna, from the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Provided transcendental light over here means, let's just quickly address that before we go forward. What does he mean by transcendental light? Darkness is ignorance, so therefore light is knowledge. When they're saying the Supreme Brahman is Sad, eternality, Chid, all knowledge, and Anand is all bliss, right? Satchid Anand, eternality, knowledge, and bliss. So the Supreme Brahman over here, when they're saying will give you all light, will give you all knowledge. Doesn't mean that there'll be light coming out of Bhagavatam. Doesn't mean that. Literal meaning is not. You have to understand the in between. provided it is received through the medium of a transparent spiritual master. Studying Bhagavatam on your own will only bewilder you. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada's purports are very important because he has referred to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Sridhar Swami for his purports. So it's very important to study it with the help of devotees. Lord Chaitanya's private secretary, Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami, advised all intending visitors who came to see the Lord at Puri to make a study of the Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavatam is the self-realized, bona fide spiritual master, and through him only can one understand the lessons of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. Those who are initiated will understand how much more we understand after being initiated, because it is a spiritual energy which is infused into us by a spiritual master. It is not just some, sentimentality which we think, oh my God, these people say that ISKCON people, Hare Krishna people are crazy, they're mad, they're fanatics. Maybe we are, but it's a spiritual energy, because everything is in a subtle level. We cannot see it, we don't believe it. But those who've experienced it can say how their chanting or their knowledge has changed after being initiation. Maybe we can ask our new initiates. Let's finish this chapter first. Person Bhagavatam is the self-realized, bona fide spiritual master, and through him only can one understand the lessons of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. One can derive from the study of the Bhagavatam all benefits that are possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. Approaching Srimad Bhagavatam with the bhakti, through bhakti, is very important. If you want just knowledge, Bhagavatam will only give you jnana. But if you go with the intention, your desire to serve the Lord and to get bhakti yoga, Bhagavatam will give you that benefit. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna that we can expect from his personal contact. So first 2 cantos are his lotus feet, the next 2 cantos are his thighs, so on, the full body, right? So it is very important to understand that Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Sri Krishna. Text 41. Okay. Tadiham grahayam asa.
Taddiham grahayam asa
Sutam atma vatam varam.
sutam atmavatam varam
Sarva vedetihasanam.
sarva vedetihasanam
Saram samudritam.
saram samudritam.
This is such a beautiful verse. Sri Vyasadeva delivered it to his son, Shukadeva Goswami, who is the most respected among the self-realized, after extracting the cream of all Vedic literatures and histories of the universe. So when Srila Vyasadeva took out the cream of all the Vedic literatures and the histories of the universe, then he compiled it as Srimad Bhagavatam and then delivered it to Shukadeva Goswami, who then delivered to Parikshit Maharaj. And now we are listening. Okay, long purport. Let's read the purport. Men with poor fund of knowledge only accept the history of the world from the time of Buddha or since 600 BC. And prior to this period, all histories mentioned in the scriptures are calculated by them to be only imaginary stories. But that is not a fact. This is not mythology. It is not a myth. All the stories mentioned in the Puranas and Mahabharata, etc., are actual histories, not only of this planet, but also of millions of other planets within the universe. Sometimes the history of planets beyond this world appears to such men to be unbelievable, but they do not know that different planets are not equal in all respects, and that therefore some of the historical facts derived from other planets do not correspond with the experience of this planet. Considering the different situation of the different planets and also time and circumstances, there is nothing wonderful in the stories of the Puranas, nor are they imaginary. Nothing wonderful meaning that there's nothing to wonder about it, not that they're not wonderful. So Srila Prabhupada's English means that it's nothing to wonder. Oh, is it true? Is it not true? It is wonderful, but it is not to be wondered that is it true or not. We should always remember the maxim that one man's food is another man's poison. We should not therefore reject the stories and histories of the Puranas as imaginary. The great rishis like Vyasa had no business putting some imaginary stories in their literatures. So none of it is fiction. They're all facts. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, historical facts selected from the histories of different planets have been depicted. It is therefore accepted by all the spiritual authorities as the Mahapuran. The special significance of these histories is that they are all connected with the activities of the Lord in a different time and atmosphere. Srila Shukadev Goswami is the topmost personality of all the self-realized souls, and he accepted this as the subject of studies from his father Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva is the great authority and the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam being so important, he delivered the message first to his great son Sri Sukadeva Goswami. It is compared to the cream of the milk. Vedic literature is like the milk ocean of knowledge. Cream or butter is the most palatable essence of milk, and so also Srimad Bhagavatam, for it contains all palatable, instructive, and authentic versions of different activities of the Lord and his devotees. There is no gain, however, in accepting the message of Bhagavatam from the unbelievers, atheists, and professional reciters who make a trade of Bhagavatam for the layman. So all those people who are listening to other renditions of Bhagavatam and other classes from or outside of Srila Prabhupada's purports, please do not do so. Stick only to those who are reading from Srila Prabhupada's purports and Prabhupada's Bhagavatam. Yeah. It was delivered to Srila Shukadev and he had nothing to do with the Bhagavat business. He did not have to maintain family expenses by such trade. Srimad Bhagavatam should therefore be received from the representative of Shukadev, who must be in the renounced order of life without family encumbrance. Milk is undoubtedly very good and nourishing, but when it is touched by the mouth of a snake, it is no longer nourishing. Rather, it becomes a source of death. So, if you are listening to someone else's narrations or conclusions of Bhagavatam, it can be poisonous, or in the sense, not exactly leading you to death, but it can make your Bhakti Lata Bij die. That is very dangerous, right? So be very careful with the source from whom you're listening to. Similarly, those who are not strictly in the Vaishnava discipline should not make a business of this Bhagavatam and become a cause of spiritual death for so many hearers. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the purpose of all the Vedas is to know Him, Lord Krishna. Anyone remembers this verse? What is this?
Vedeshcha sarve. I think it's 15.15.
Yes, just say that line. Vedeshcha sarve.
Sarvesh ahame vedyo vedanta krit veda videha chaham.
Yes, Vedeshcha sarve aham eva vedyo. Of all the Vedas, I am aham eva vedyo. I am to be known. Right? So Srimad Bhagavatam is Lord Krishna himself in the form of recorded knowledge. Therefore, it is the cream of all the Vedas and it contains all historical facts of all times in relation with Sri Krishna. It is factually the essence of all histories. Be very, very careful whom you listen from, because if wrong things enter your mind, it can spoil your bhakti. And your Bhakti Lata Bij we, all of us, still, it's very tender. Any wrong influence and it can be destroyed. Okay, text 42. Sato samshravayam asa.
Satu samshravayamasa
Maharajam parikshitam.
Maharajam parikshitam
Prayopavishtam gangayam.
Prayopavishtam gangayam
Paritam paramarshibhihi.
Paritam paramarshibhihi.
Shukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, in turn delivered the Bhagavatam to the great Emperor Parikshit, who sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganga, awaiting death without taking food or drink. So he knew that he had 7 days and 7 nights to be bitten by a snake bird. He was cursed, so he just dropped everything. He left his palace, he came to the bank of the Ganges, and then he waited there. And Shukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, came there and narrated the Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. So this parampara is very important. Why? Because from Srila Vyasadeva, it was delivered to Shukadev Goswami. Shukadev Goswami gave it to Parikshit. And at that time, even Suta Goswami was present. So Shukadev Goswami gave it to Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami gave it to Shaunaka Adi Rishis. And then, of course, from Emperor Parikshit, he gave it to his mother. And then others also gave it down. So it is very important what? Parampara. Parampara is very important. Because the message is not diluted. Now, we will say that how do we know it's not diluted? It's not because we are still getting bhakti, right? Is any acharya in between ever said, okay, listen, let's just do karma so that we can get a lot of wealth and you do these activities and you can get a lot of gyan? No, every acharya, every Goswami's emphasis is on the same teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or it is Vyasadeva or Narad Muni, right up to the Lord himself, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Krishna himself. Emphasis is, none of them say that do so many rules and regulations for karma and jnana, study so much, you should know all this, all that. No, what is the thing? Spontaneous devotion to the Lord, spontaneous bhakti and chanting, and then you get prema. So those who are doing karma, jnana, adi, they will not get prema because they don't know, they don't want it also. They don't want prema. They don't want prema bhakti because they don't know about it. Nor do they want it. So why should we always stick to parampara? So that we don't get deviated from our goal. Our goal is to serve the servant of the Lord and to get Krishna prema, to get prem bhakti, bhava prema. If in between you are being diverted to other things, you're going to lose it. So therefore, stay in parampara, very important. Okay, 43. Krishne swadhamo pagate.
Krishne swadhamopagate
Dharma jnanadibhi saha.
dharma jnanadibhi saha
Kalo nashta drishamesha.
kalo nashtadrisham esha
Puranarko dhunotidaha.
puranarko dhunotita.
This Bhagavad Puran is as brilliant as the sun. It's a very important verse, this one. Yeah. This Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun. And it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode. Krishna swadhama upagate. So Krishna has gone to his own abode, Swadharma. He's gone back, returned, Upagate. So dharma and jnana, religion and knowledge have combined, and they have taken shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. So persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in age of Kali should get light from this Purana. Purana Arka, Purana which is as brilliant as the sun, has now uditaha, uday hua hai, it has arisen. So nashta drisham, because people whose vision has been destroyed because of Kali Yuga, they have to get light. They have to get light from the Bhagavad Purana, which has now arisen like the sun. Purana Arka. So Lord Krishna has his eternal dham or abode where he eternally enjoys himself with his eternal associates and paraphernalia. And his eternal abode is a manifestation of his internal energy, whereas the material world is the manifestation of his external energy. When he descends to the material world, he displays himself with all paraphernalia in his internal potency, which is called Atma Maya. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he descends by his own potency, Atma Maya. His form, name, fame, paraphernalia, abode, etc. are not therefore creations of matter. They are all transcendent. He descends to reclaim the fallen souls and to re-establish codes of religion which are directly enacted by him. Except for God, no one can establish the principles of religion. Either he or a suitable person empowered by him can dictate the codes of religion. Real religion means to know God, our relation with him, our duties in relation with him, and to know ultimately our destination after leaving this material body. The conditioned souls who are entrapped by the material energy hardly know all these principles of life. Most of them are like animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. They are mostly engaged in sense enjoyment under the pretension of religiosity, knowledge, or salvation. They are still more blind in the present age of quarrel or Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, the population is just a royal edition of the animals. They have nothing to do with spiritual knowledge or godly religious life. They are so blind that they cannot see anything beyond the jurisdiction of subtle mind, intelligence, or ego. But they are very much proud of their advancement in knowledge, science, and material prosperity. They can risk their lives to become a dog or hog just after leaving the present body, for they have completely lost sight of the ultimate aim of life. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna appeared before us just a little prior to the beginning of Kali Yuga, and he returned to his eternal home practically at the commencement of Kali Yuga. While he was present, he exhibited everything by his different activities. He spoke the Bhagavad Gita specifically and eradicated all pretentious principles of religiosity. And prior to his knowledge from this material world, he empowered Sri Vyasadeva through Narad to compile the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And thus both the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are like torch bearers for the blind people of this age. In other words, if men in this age of Kali want to see the real light of life, they must take to these two books only, and their aim of life will be fulfilled. Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of the Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum of life, and Lord Sri Krishna personified. We must therefore accept Srimad Bhagavatam as the direct representation of Lord Krishna. One who can see Srimad Bhagavatam can see also Lord Sri Krishna in person. They are identical. So thanks to Srila Prabhupada, all of us have Bhagavatam. Correct? Okay, I think this is the last verse. Let's chant this. Tatra kirtayato vipra
Tatra kirtayato vipra
viprarshe bhuri tejasaha
viprashera bhuri tejasaha
aham chadhyagamam tatra
aham chadyagam tatra
Nivishtastat anugrahat
nivistas tad anugrahat
soham shravayashyami
soham vasravayashyami
yathaditam yathamati.
yathaditam yathamati.
So, translation by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. O learned Brahmanas, when Shukadev Goswami recited Bhagavatam there in the presence of Emperor Parikshit, I heard him with rapt attention, and thus by his mercy, I learned the Bhagavatam from the great and powerful sage. Who's saying this? Suta Goswami. Now I shall try to make you hear this very same thing as I learned it from him and as I have realized it. Right? So, sorry. One can certainly see directly the presence of Lord Sri Krishna in the pages of Bhagavatam if one has heard it from a self-realized great soul like Shukadev Goswami. One cannot, however, learn Bhagavatam from a bogus hired reciter whose aim of life is to earn money out of such a recitation and employ the earning in sex indulgence. No one can learn Srimad Bhagavatam who is associated with persons engaged in sex life. That is the secret of learning Bhagavatam. Nor can one learn Bhagavatam from one who interprets the text by his mundane scholarship. One has to learn Bhagavatam from the representative of Shukadev Goswami and no one else. If one at all wants to see Lord Krishna in the pages, that is the process and there is no alternative. Suta Goswami is a bona fide representative of Shukadev Goswami because he was present to them. He wants to present the message which he received from the great learned Brahman. Shukadev Goswami presented Bhagavatam as he heard it from his great father, and so also Suta Goswami is presenting Bhagavatam as he heard it from Shukadev Goswami. Simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. The word Nivishta means that Suta Goswami drank the juice of Bhagavatam through his ears. That is the real process of receiving Bhagavatam. One should hear with rapt attention from the real person, and then he can at once realize the presence of Lord Krishna in every page. The secret of knowing Bhagavatam is mentioned here. No one can give rapt attention who is not pure in mind. No one can be pure in mind who is not pure in action. No one can be pure in action who is not pure in eating, sleeping, hearing, and meeting. But somehow or other, if someone hears with rapt attention from the right person at the very beginning, one can assuredly see Lord Krishna in person in the pages of Bhagavatam. So purity of mind comes from chanting and also from the four regulative principles, which is the basis. So thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purports of first canto, third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Jai Ho, we finished the third chapter. That's so wonderful. So, any questions or any realizations are important. So always you must have some realization. Then only you will be able to absorb it. Let's start with questions. Anyone has any questions?
I have two realizations from
Okay.
this. One is that we should listen and we should actually follow a bona fide spiritual master and bhakti with bhakti. So bhakti is actually the essence. With bhakti and with that service attitude.
Correct.
That's service and bhakti, these two, I think, inseparable parts. With this only we can think of going further on our spiritual path.
Yes.
And one question I was troubling a bit for last 1 or 2 days, that these things, subtle, like Lord's energy and Lord's kripa on us, though we feel it, we experience it, but what was coming to my mind for the last 2 days is ki, what we see around is everything physical, whether it's people, they are all visible to us. So what is visible to us and what is not visible but we experience. So there is a constant struggle between the two. That is what is visible that and what we experience on in this spiritual. Like for example, I'm in school for 6 hours. So 6 घंटे के लिए all those things which are happening around me, वो थोड़ा सा fade होने में time लगता है when I reach home, and it takes time to unwind from that. And then again coming back to this, and though the experience that I get by chanting and by all this, that again takes over, but that constant struggle is there inside. So how to overcome that visible, those visible things which constantly bother.
Hmm. Nice, very nice. That's a very valid question because it happens to all of us. And it takes a little time to have this realization also that there are two aspects to it. Since you are in the material world, you cannot not be exposed to what's happening around you. It will be there unless, even if you are in the dham, you will see many things, right? It is not possible to be completely, in a shell of spirituality. But on that only comes with maturity, spiritual maturity. I'm not talking about age here. It only comes with spiritual maturity in thinking that you are not this body and you are the soul. And what's happening around you is just happening. It's just happening because it has to happen. There has to be a course of action in the material world, which is automatically taking place without any endeavor. What's happening around you does not need so much endeavor, it just happens around you. But the one mistake we make is we have two parallel lives. We have a spiritual life and we have a material life. We have two parallel lines which never meet. We all know that parallel lines never meet. And we are trying to be on these two parallel lines of, oh my God, I'm material now, I'm in the material realm now, I'm the spiritual, or only when I chant I'm spiritual, otherwise. No, you are spiritual all the time because the soul is inside your body and your identity is the soul. So it takes a little maturity to understand this, and that's why chanting and reading Bhagavatam comes into this, that you have to merge these two lines. You have to merge it. Even if you are in a material situation, you are in a material environment, you have to just go inwards. Spirituality is just being inwards, and outwardly you have to do whatever you have to do, and without too much of endeavor. But your most endeavor should be inwards. So even if you're sitting quietly, not doing anything, and you're getting bored by what's happening around you, all you have to do is turn your thoughts inward and think about some pastime of the Lord, or if nothing, just chant in your mind the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And that's how you merge a material and a spiritual situation. So you should establish, or you should always be spiritual situation. You cannot have two different lives. You cannot have two parallel lines. You cannot say that I'm so many hours in my workplace, and that's where I'm completely material. And when I come back home and I start chanting and reading Bhagavatam or any other things of bhakti, angas of bhakti I do, I'm going to be spiritual. And then you start hankering for more spiritual, because that's what's happening to you. You're hankering for 24 hours of spirituality, that even in those 6 hours, you want to be more spiritual. So you have to merge them together and understand that you are not this body, but you are the soul, and that is completely spiritual. So whenever you're in any situation where you don't have to physically do anything material, you can be quiet and just turn inwards and just chant or think of a pastime or just do something, and understand that you are not this body and you're here just to finish this lifetime in whatever circumstance you are and go back home, back to God. That should be your goal, right? So what you need to do is merge these two parallel lines and make it one life. not have two lives of one material life and one spiritual life. Merge it and make it only a spiritual life. You can do all material activities. My husband goes to work. He's a devotee. He is completely initiated and everything, but he doesn't. He tries as much as possible to turn inwards whenever he has free time, and then he only exerts enough, enough of his material energy, enough of his energy to get the work done. And then once that is over, he comes home. He sits and he reads his Bhagavatam, or he listens to some lecture. When he's driving, he doesn't listen to anything else but his Guru Maharaj's lectures or some kirtan. So you have to merge these two things together. So I have been getting this question a lot in the past 2-3 weeks. And this is the one advice I'm giving everyone, that don't have these two parallel lines in your life. Merge this and make it one. It will be much easier for you. Even your material, whatever activities you're doing will be much more interesting and smoother, because you are not this body. Yeah. Just try it out and see how you can. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Any realizations?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. About the same, I heard in Amarendra Prabhuji's one of the lectures that he said whenever you are in office, so every 15 minutes or every half an hour, you can say Hare Krishna, or you can chant Mahamantra once or twice.
Yeah.
So if you
Absolutely.
see that 6 hours, every 15 minutes, if you chant, then how many times you are remembering God?
Yeah, absolutely. All you need to do is go inwards. Yeah, even in your mind, you just Hare Krishna. You don't like something, Hare Krishna. Like something, Hare Krishna. It's just that. And you are not this body, Vinti. You just have to understand that. That understanding takes a little bit of time, that my identity is the soul. This body is just so that my soul has some vehicle, and I have to get out of this body. That's what you need to do. Okay. Anyone else, or shall we stop for today?
Mataji, just one
Hare
question. I
Krishna.
don't know whether it is correct or not, but I know that Narayana and Krishna is same, but why it is written that Ante Narayana Smriti?
See, there are a lot of people who understand that they only have the understanding of Narayan, but they don't understand that Krishna is the source of Narayan also. So it's a synonym. Whether you say Narayan, for you Narayan is Krishna.
Yeah.
But there are people for whom Narayan, there are people for whom it's Vishnu, right? So whether it's Anta Kale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram, you're thinking of Krishna, or Ante Narayana Smriti, for people it is the same. The destination is different. You know that Krishna is the source of all incarnations, so you will think of Krishna. So therefore your destination is where Krishna's Swadhama is, Krishna's Loka. So those who think about Narayan is no harm. He's also Krishna only. The potency is the same. They're all Vishnu Tattva. But the destination is different. They will go to Vaikuntha Lokas, which is not bad. What is wrong with Vaikuntha? There's no wonderful. It's the spiritual world. But it depends on what parampara you follow. So our goal is to serve the two-handed Krishna form, who is so reciprocal, and in the Madhurya Bhav, or the Vatsalya Bhav, or the Sakhya Bhav. But there is no all these bhavs in Vaikuntha, right? There's only Aishwarya Bhav, there is only Dhasya Bhav. There is a very small measure of Sakhya Bhav, that also is more of Aishwarya Bhav. There's more Dasya Bhav. So it depends on your bhav, whether you think of Narayan or whether whether some scriptures say Narayan or whether we say Krishna. You know who's the source and who's your destination. The same way they know they want, they have that realization of Narayan, then they will go to Vaikuntha. That's the only difference. Otherwise, there's no difference. Narayan, Krishna, everyone is the same. But Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Yeah, don't forget that.
Yes, yes. That is always
Otherwise,
there.
that is why that is always the same. None of the Vishnu Tattvas have less potency than Krishna. They all have the same potency. But destinations are different.
Okay.
That's it. And rasa, the bhav, the rasa, Aishwarya bhav, Dasya bhav, whatever bhav you are in, your destination will be that.
Okay, Mataji.
Wonderful. Okay, so anything else? That's it. Shall we stop for today then? Okay, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare
See
Hare
you
Krishna,
next
Mataji.
week.
Krishna.
Yes.
Next week,
Thank you so
chapter
much.
4.